and just go ahead with that. So basically, I will just get started and run through. Please, if at any point in time, we are very few, so if you have any questions, I'm going to be looking at my slides on another screen. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself at any point in time and ask. That's absolutely fine. And all of that. In the meantime, please, if you can introduce yourselves, just so I have an idea who I'm speaking to, that would be amazing. But just to get started, so today we are going to be talking a bit about medical affairs, and specifically the medical science liaison position. My name is NiCRPCa Career. I'm a pharmacist by background. And just to give you a little bit of my bio, like I previously said, I am a pharmacist by training with a Doctor of Pharmacy degree. I finished that I got that from the University of Benin back in Nigeria, moved over to Canada a little over 4 years ago. Time really flies. I'm currently a medical science liaison with NiCRPCa Canada. Before that, I was in the pharma industry. I have approximately 5 years experience in the pharma industry, in pharma sales to be precise, both in Nigeria and here in Canada. I'm relatively new as an MSL. I still keep saying relatively new, even if it's 6 months, but that still captures how much there is to learn on the job and how interesting it really is from day to day and all of that. Also, before I went into pharma, I was a full-time pharmacist with 3 years of experience in community pharmacy. I also have 1 year experience with pharmacovigilance, but it was more of like an intern year. So that's not a whole lot of that, basically. So the objectives of this meeting, I was thinking, were a couple of things, and you can add on other things you want to learn. I think I have just 10 minutes to talk, and I've already used about 5 or so to try and figure out my slides and everything else. So I'll just keep going. We're looking at 3 things. First of all, helping you understand what a medical science liaison is and what they do. The second is to have an idea of the requirements to become an MSL and basically possible career progressions as well in it. And the third is just to help you understand the Canadian market, specifically for medical science liaisons, the locations for the jobs, remuneration, and all of that, how much you typically will get paid for being an MSL. And also, just to get into it, who is an MSL? In simple terms, a medical science liaison, and I'll keep saying MSL throughout the meeting, the first thing I want to mention is that they are called different things, basically. Sorry about that. They can be called different things. They can be called medical managers, clinical liaisons, field medical advisor, and a couple of other things. But the most popular term you're going to hear is a medical science liaison. And they're basically a scientific trained field-facing member of the medical affairs team. So what that basically means is that they're part of medical affairs, but they don't typically stay in head office. You typically will be facing physicians or what we call therapeutic area experts or key opinion leaders. They are different nomenclatures, but it basically means the same things. So these are people that are typically at the forefront of cutting edge of science. They are typically people that will be on guidelines. They are typically people that do a lot of research. They are typically people that basically just change the way medicine is practiced and all of that. So that's, in a nutshell, those are the people you're going to be liaising with, having conversations with. And what conversations are you going to be having? That's the question. So a lot of it is going to be a range of things. It's going to be, and it depends on the product cycle of the product you're talking about and all of that. It's in pre-launch phase. If it's a pre-launch product, you probably will be talking a lot more about research as well as the data that is just coming out and all of that. If it's a product that has been on the market for a long time, you'll still be doing the same thing, but the amount of your time that will be spent on one or the other actually changes. So just to switch from that to what the day-to-day is and what exactly the roles and responsibilities are. Like I previously said, your primary role is going to be you communicating medical and scientific data. That's primarily what you're going to be doing. You're going to be talking to these doctors, letting them know about your science, what's coming out, what's not coming out, answering questions that you might get from the doctors, as well as your other field-facing colleagues from sales as well. You'll be collecting insights from these doctors as well. So for the medical departments, typically they will have a medical plan. It might have to do with what studies are coming out, what needs are in the community that needs to be met. There's a question around this specific type of patient. For example, you have, let's use hypertension as an example. You have hypertensive patients and you have a medication that is being used in hypertensive patients, and there's not a lot of data in hypertensive patients with severe renal impairment. Would that be a good area to look into? Is that a need that needs to be met? Just different things. What's coming out? Are there changes in the guidelines? Are there different things that might be coming out? It's just nice, good to have a feel and know what's actually going on out there in the field. It also includes knowing what your TAEs are working on. Are they working on new projects? Are those projects you want to liaise and work with them on as well? And all of that. And a lot of times, these projects are typically tailored towards improving patient care and stuff like that. So that's a lot of it is going to be tied around primarily communicating medical and scientific data, then in a couple of other activities as well. Apart from that, you're also going to be supporting your internal stakeholders. And that's basically the company's employees as well. So basically, you're going to be carrying out trainings for the sales team and other team members. You might have a clinical research team, and you might also help them as well. Say they are looking to carry out a clinical research and they want to identify TAs that will be interested in that as well. That might be part of your job duties, depending on the company and the product cycle of the medication as well. You can also serve as a subject matter expert for different cross-functional teams. So, for example, you have you have your marketing team that is thinking of bringing out a marketing plan or marketing materials, or even questions to answer commonly asked questions, data to answer commonly asked questions. That's something that they might come to you for and say, okay, what data do we have to support this? These are questions they are getting a lot on the field. We want to prepare something to help them address this and all of that. So that's to mention a couple of things you probably do in the role. I was going to share an example of the job posting, and you basically will see a very long list of qualifications. It was just one I came across recently, and I was like, okay, this is a whole lot. And that kind of helps me segue into the next thing I was going to talk about. Hope I'm doing good for time. I'll just go back here and make sure I don't have any questions. I don't. Okay, perfect. So the next thing I was going to talk about was what qualifications you need, actually. And typically, when you go through a lot of the posts, you will see like 1,000,001 things, but it usually boils down to 3 things a lot of times. In fact, 2 things. It boils down to your degree. They typically want a medical doctor, someone with a doctorate, a PhD, a PharmD, a nurse, basically people with advanced postgraduate degrees. Or they will accept to take someone with an MSc that has experience. And that's why I say it comes down to 2 things. It comes down to your degree and experience. Experience, in fact, is the mini cheat code for this. Because I do know a couple of MSLs that don't even have, I won't say a couple, maybe one or a few, but I do know some that don't even have any of this and are still MSLs because of the wealth of experience they bring from just that communicating with TAs and all of that. But ideally, they will want you to have an advanced degree. Most people come from a PhD background into this, but there's still the opportunity for MDs as well as PharmDs and even BPharms if you have the experience and you can sell the experience you have, basically. So that's looking at these hard, the qualifications, like qualifications, basically. How about your soft skills? Who do you want to be as an MSL? And it's something you want to look into and think of yourself, because it's something you're going to be doing a lot on the job and all. If you don't have it, it's something you can grow over time and all of that. But basically, the first thing is going to be communication skills. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be talking to a cross-section of people. You need to be able to read their verbal and non-verbal cues. Another thing is business acumen, which is one very interesting aspect of the job that a lot of times the people that they try to recruit don't have and need to grow very fast. If you think of doctors, you think of pharmacists, you think of PhDs. That business acumen is not, it's more of like, we know the science, we are very good with the science. The business acumen, not as strong. So that's actually another aspect a lot of them will want you to understand, because at the end of the day, you need to understand that it's a business for the company and be able to understand what the priorities for the company is, even if it's loosely, but you do need to understand that. You need to have presentation skills. You're going to be giving presentations to a wide variety of audiences. You're going to be giving to specialists and other healthcare practitioners. So, and even other people that basically are just support staff and all that. So you need to be able to understand the data, and more importantly, tailor it to the people you're speaking to. And the last one I'm going to say is prioritization skills, because it's a job that is, the description truly varies depending on the company and the product cycle. So, and there's a lot coming at you. So you need to be able to prioritize and know that, oh, this is what I need to do today. This is what I need to do now. This is what I need to do tomorrow, and all of that. So that's something that is very, very key for the job. About certifications and how to get in. So I do get a lot of questions. Do you need certifications? Do you need any of that to be able to get in? To be honest, I don't know a lot about the certifications. I actually had to research and check up a couple of them for this talk. I won't say they are not important. I'm still relatively new in the field. So probably I'll be taking a couple of them down the line to maybe improve my skills, because learning is continuous. But are they necessary to get the job? I will say, considering that I have the job and I don't even know a lot about of these certifications, I would say not entirely. They can probably increase your chances, but they are not going to be the be all end all, or even they typically are not, especially in Canada. I know in the US, the certifications are usually carry a lot more weight, but in Canada, not as much. Maybe down the line, it might get to that, but at this point in time, they aren't. Career progression, I think I'll just skip this for now, just because I'm looking at the time and I want to give anybody time to ask questions if they have any questions. But basically, you go from a medical science liaison, you can get to a senior medical science liaison, to a medical advisor, to a country medical director. It's basically like a progression in medical affairs. That being said, I've seen people switch out from medical to commercial and become marketing managers, regional. Like I've seen that cross-functional move. I've seen a lot of that happening as well, depending on people's preferences. The last thing I'm just going to address is what the Canadian market looks like for an aspiring MSL. One of the questions we wanted to answer was, where are the jobs? So I did have this little beautiful map that kind of shows where things are concentrated. But to be honest, a lot of the jobs are based out of Quebec and Ontario. To put that in context for you, a lot of times, a lot of companies will have one MSL covering the West. They might have one for Ontario, one for Quebec. So you probably will have 2 times the number of MSLs in the East, that's Ontario, Quebec, compared to the West. And it's kind of similar for almost all pharma jobs. However, does that mean the only jobs are in the East? No, it doesn't. There are jobs everywhere. One thing I always try to let people know is that although there are more jobs there are also more people competing for those as well. So that kind of balances out how much jobs there are per person, if that makes sense. So basically, they're everywhere. Yep. What else? Salary expectations, the median, and I got this from Glassdoor actually, and I think is a fair representation. There's a range. It typically starts from, they said the low is 97, which seems pretty fair for pretty low, basically. And it goes, and they said the high is 150K. To be honest, I've seen a ton of people earning more than 150K, and the median is 120. So basically anywhere from 100 to 200 or even above, from what I've seen. And it depends on how much experience you've had and the company and their salary scale and all of that. So I'm just going to stop here and answer any questions you may have, if there are any.
Hi, Nika. Thank you for the presentation. It was very insightful.
Okay, hi, Nima.
My question is, would you say your medical, from your biography, you said you worked as a medical sales representative.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say your medical sales representative experience gave you an upper edge with regards to while you were applying for the job? Or is it more of the PharmD? Because for someone that doesn't have a PharmD, maybe for myself, I have a bachelor in pharmacy, not PharmD. And I don't have a medical sales, I don't have any experience in that. What are the ways to navigate to get into that kind of field? Thank you.
That's a beautiful question. So I'll answer truthfully. I actually think my sales experience gave me an advantage, to be very honest. So to be fair, I kind of got this job with a company I had worked in sales with. And while working with them, I did show my interest in the medical aspect of things. I also know someone that is a BSc on Pharma that went through the same route, went through sales, and then from there, you understand, got into the MSL position. I'll say it's one of the streams I hear helps people. A lot of people I know have passed through that. So I will say my experience with sales, because one of the big things they ask for is really that experience. And a lot of times with sales, you're already physician facing, you're already facing it, talking to a lot of these TAs. You understand the business aspect of things. If you have a BPharm, you already can prove that you do know the science anyway. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Yes, so there's no one size fits all, but for me personally, the PharmD, not as much, because I applied to a couple of places, but what really gave me the edge where I finally got it was my experience in sales.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think we're a couple of minutes early, actually. I was going to leave some time for discussions and all of that, but if there are